We are live. I cannot contain my excitement. We are back for the Thursday night edition of ELF Live. I am your co-host, Nick Alfieri, here with the one and only Matt Bressington coming out of the United Kingdom. Matt, like I said, am so excited heading into the last week of the regular season for ELF football. How you doing, man?
Oh, I think you summed it up. I'm stressed. I'm excited. There's so many things to talk about. Playoffs, games, international stuff. Everything's going on. I'm loving it. It's good times.
Absolutely riveting final weekend of the season. Hello, everybody in the chat. So we're live on Twitch. We're live on YouTube. And we can see you guys in the chat there. Marcus, what's up? Michael, Daniel Brenner, is this a game or people just talking? It's just people talking. But hey, we're going to have a fun time today. And we need you guys to get involved. Fourth Down Fiascos here. And then we are also live on Instagram, so you guys can participate wherever you're watching on either chat. We got you right here, so you guys jump on in on the show. Tell us you love our takes, hate our takes, or what have you. So we got audio on Insta is working or not working, Maxie. We're getting some messages from our producer director. Good audio on YouTube. It is working. There we go. There is audio on Insta, Marcus. So check that out. Double check that. Anyway, guys, we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about the playoff situation. You might have seen the beautiful graphic that was just posted on ELF socials about the playoff picture. 3 teams vying for 2 spots in this final weekend. So we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about some breakout players. Matt and I have each picked 2 breakout players that we're going to talk about. Thank you to guys who had great seasons this year. Then we're going to look forward to the future a little bit. We got hot takes for 2025. You know, we've been doing our hot takes each weekend. We're going to look extra forward to what we think might happen in the ELF next year. Then we're going to do our pick'ems, go through all the games, and then, of course, Matt's fantasy advice, the coveted golden information from Matt. So, Matt, shall we do it, man? Shall we dive on into the playoff talks? Now, there we go. Look at that graphic that was saying. Matt, before I go down on a little bit of a rant here, give me your thoughts here on this playoff situation.
I mean, of course, Paris, they're in it. They're around. It just depends on how they get seeded. I'm so excited for this last game between the Raiders and the Ravens. That might be the most anticipated regular season game of ELF history. Like it's got to be up there, if not number one, right? It's everything to play for. We've seen these teams come down to the wire before. It's 2 great teams with different styles. It's everything that I've ever wanted. It's great.
Yeah, man, crazy. And so we see right there on the graphic, Paris is in. Whether they win or lose this weekend, they're playing Frankfurt. They are going to be in the playoffs. Massive, massive achievement. This is a 2nd-year franchise. So shout out to the Paris Musketeers, what they've done from the top on down, from that ownership group all the way down to the players. And then the head coach they got, Mark Mattioli, very impressive. Paris Musketeers locked themselves into the playoffs. Now, I'm going to give you a little explanation here because it's going to be a little bit confusing for what we've got going on. So let me try to explain it for you guys here. We've got 3 teams besides Paris here, 3 teams in the playoff hunt. We've got the Raiders, we've got Munich, we've got Madrid. Now, Madrid is the one team in this scenario that does not control their own destiny. Their destiny is out of their hands. Now, Madrid plays Hamburg this weekend. They are likely to win. You know, it's not guaranteed, but they're likely to win. And for them to have any chance at the playoffs, they need to win. That will have them finishing at 8-4 on the season, and they should also probably score as many points as possible in that game. We'll touch on that in a second. Now, the big game, massive game, what you just said, man, might be the biggest regular season game in ELF history. By the way, I'm going to be calling that game live on the ELF Game Pass. I expect every single person that has ever watched ELF football to be tuned into that game. It's going to be phenomenal. You're going to hear my passion on that call. Anyway, these 2 teams played each other in week 4. It was a 3-point ball game. It came down to the very end. So what happens if the Raiders win this game? Well, then the Raiders end at 9-3, and they are in the playoffs. Then it goes to point difference between Munich and Madrid, who will both finish at 8-4 in this scenario. And so then it goes to the point differential, like I said, and the Munich Ravens have a much larger point differential than Madrid. So in this scenario, Madrid would be out of luck. Raiders would get in, and despite the loss, Munich would get in as well. So that's what happens if the Raiders win. If they do what they did earlier in the season, winning by 3, if they win, that's what happens. What happens if Munich wins? If the Bavarians are able to pull it off, then Munich ends at 9-3 and they get into the playoffs. And then obviously it goes to the point differential between the Raiders and Madrid, as they would both end at 8-4. This is where it gets pretty interesting. Madrid's current point differential is 157. The Raiders is 159. That's just a 2-point spread. It's insanely close. So this means it comes down to the points scored in these two games this weekend. So say the Raiders lost to Munich by the closest score possible, 1 point. It's 20-19. That would bring the Raiders' point differential down to 158. Madrid would then need to beat Hamburg by at least 2 points, bumping their point differential up to 159, and that would bring Madrid into the playoffs. So, man, that is the scenario of what happens. I'm out of breath from that, but that's basically what we've got to look forward to. Matt, without giving away your pick just yet, because we're going to touch on that a little bit later, what are just some of your general thoughts here on this Raiders-Ravens ball game, man?
Oof, a team in black's going to win. I'm not sure which one it is, but you can see the numbers there. It's two different offenses that share some similarities. Both of them have amazing running backs. Both of them have some really great quarterback play in different reasons. Both of them are very clutch. They've got a ton of scoring potential, some turnovers as well. Like, there's a lot to love about this game. And like me and you have both discussed, the Raiders in the start of the year, we had a lot of doubts about them being in this position. They've proven me wrong. They've proven you wrong. And they've all the way up to 8-3 in this one. That rushing offense is just so hard to stop with Hasavanta and with Bonatti. It's just a dynamic duo. And then the Ravens have got Tomowa, they've got Chad, they've got Malik Stanley. Like, there's so many weapons on either side that absolutely anything could happen in this game.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing. I think both of these teams are kind of peaking at the right time as well. Both of these teams have had their struggles. Obviously, we see here they both have 3 losses. And when I look at the Raiders in particular, they went out and they got a new quarterback. They got N'Kosi Perry. He does still have a loss on his resume there, but that was pretty early on. And I think that he's been able to really settle into that program, and he has kind of taken this team to the next level. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, they beat the Stuttgart Surge. That was a massive upset. And the Ravens, man, kind of same thing. And when talking to some of the guys on the Ravens last week, I talked to Tommy Oyewu before the game, and he told me, they struggled a little bit getting their chemistry early on in the year. It's a brand new team, new head coach, Kendall Ellison, new staff. They're piecing together a lot of stuff. Whereas the Raiders, obviously they get new players each year, but this is a program that's been around for decades. Yeah. And so the Ravens took a little while to kind of get that team chemistry. Seems like they mostly have it now. So it's kind of just the perfect time for these two teams to be playing. I liked your move, Matt, saying a team in black is going to win. That's it. You're a real professional, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. It's going to be a great game.
Yeah, so we got that, and we're going to talk about a little bit more in detail when we go to our pick'ems. But that is the scenario with the playoffs, guys. And we talked about it. Check it out on the ELF Game Pass this weekend. There is the €20 playoff package. I cannot stress enough how good of a deal this is and how valuable it will be, because we're going to be having some very exciting games. And I expect y'all to be on there and listening to that broadcast, guys. It's going to be a good one. And I'm going to be screaming my head off about these two football teams. Here we go. Alex Malchow is in the chat. What's going on? Before we move on, Matt, Alex says Raider W incoming. He did predict the last one.
He did. He did. Even though it was dismay to you, he did get that one spot on.
He did. He got me there. All right. Hey, we're gonna go a little bit more detail on that playoff talk and the games this weekend. And Alex will tell you if we agree with your prediction this time, Nostradamus. All right. But we are going to talk about breakout players. Matt and I have each picked 2 breakout players, guys that have been having a great season here this year, really having a breakout year. Now, guys in the chat, give us your picks for breakout players if you've got any. Same with you guys on Instagram. We see you here on Instagram too. Matt, who do you got for your first breakout player of 2024?
I want to start on defense with someone that people need to be paying more attention about, and that's Will Lido out in Cologne. He is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league. I'll say it again. He's one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league. If you do not know who he is, you need to learn who he is. He's second in the league for TFLs, right? You probably would have thought, it's someone else, but no, it's Will Lytle. Interior D lineman. He has 6.5 sacks, which is one of the best in the league. I was a big fan of him when he was out in Finland. When they signed him, I was like, this is a great signing for the pass rush. Probably the best interior pass rusher in Europe at the moment. He's phenomenal, great speed, great effective to run. Has 2 forced fumbles on the season. He has been a massively underrated part of this Cologne team that we've all kind of grown to love in the last couple of weeks with their wins with Weed and with Hill and with all these great players. But William Lytle absolutely makes it happen in the middle of that defense. He's one of the gems. I think, in my opinion, he's an all-star player this year. He's been spectacular.
Oh, I love that, Matt. I love you giving some, first of all, props to a defensive player and then an interior defensive lineman at that. These guys don't get enough love. It's an absolute crime. It's a shame. So good job, Matt, for shining a light there on Lytle. And in the chat, we've got King Glen Toonga. He says Chad Walrens. Ooh, that's also a very good pick right there. Kind of depends on what you consider a breakout player to be. Like, how established or not established can they be before this year? So, there's a lot of different definitions for what people would describe as a breakout player. But my first one, I've got Justin Rodney, the Munich Ravens. Obviously, Oyewu last year, I think, was the second leading rusher in the league, and everyone expected him to kind of repeat that. He got banged up a little bit at the start of the year, and so Rodney really had to take the load. Oyewu is back now and is great, but he's getting the ball in a lot of different ways. He's getting it kind of out of the backfield, in the slot, and different types of ways of getting him the ball, whereas Rodney has kind of become their primary true running back. He's got 105 carries, 668 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And Glenn, I hate to say it, I'm sorry to say it, Glenn, he averages more yards per carry than the one and only Glen Toonga. I thought that was an interesting stat. I think that's pretty impressive. I think Glenn is about like 6.1. Rodney's about 6.3, and he's just been a staple in this Munich Ravens offense. When I watch this Munich Ravens offense, I feel like he is really helping kind of open things up for him, because you really got to respect this. He's not like a glamorous running back. It's not so beautiful, but he just like gets the job done, and you can give him a bunch of carries per game and really open things up for the rest of those weapons they've got on offense. So Justin Rodney, the man who has participated in Ninja Warrior, is on my breakout list. What do you think of that, Matt? You think that's fair?
I like it. And also, the last few weeks, we've seen him used a lot in the receiving game, like they did with Tomawa, with those little swing passes out. We've seen a couple of highlights that reminded me. He's been quite important in that as well.
Yes, correct. Real quick here, let me address something we've got in the chat. Nifty Dude, let's see. He says, if the Raiders lose against the Ravens, they will not make the playoffs. But if they win, they only need to beat the Musketeers and Vikings to get in the championship game. Okay, Nifty Dude, you're out. We just went through the whole scenario. There is still a scenario where the Raiders can make the playoffs if they lose. I think you're kind of looking a little bit too far ahead. Alex Mouchow says QB1 Kai Hunter for a breakout player as well. I like that. He balled out last week. All right, Matt. Who is your second? And I know you're excited to talk about this one.
Yeah. I've just made a video about him. It's Milan Spiller, of course it is. How could it be anyone else with the unbelievable season he's had so far? This close to 1,000 yards, Nick. No European receiver has ever hit 1,000 yards in this league, and he might do it in his rookie season. I've been saying this all year, and it still doesn't make sense to me to say it out loud. He had a little slow half, but still start the season. They had all their issues in Helvetic. Exploded onto the scene, has a great connection with Carlton Aiken, and that's been reflective all season. And I went into massive depth how much I love his route running. Phenomenal route runner. So polished for a receiver, naturally talented. He's got a long future in the league for sure. And to get nearly 1,000 yards, even to get in 4th place, he's got more yards than many of the Americans in this league, every other European. And he's in his rookie season. Like, I still can't really get over how impressive that is. He's a phenomenal receiver, 21 years old. Sky's the limit for Milan Spiller.
Dude, he is just having such an awesome year. I love this pick. I mean, this is the obvious one. He's incredible. Dude, when I got to comment the Munich versus Helvetic game last week and just watch him for an entire game, I was just wildly impressed, man. He's a great ball player and so young. He's going to be, and we're going to talk about it in a second here when we do our hot takes. I'm actually going to refer back to him, and I wonder your opinion on it. We'll get to it in just a second. In the chat, Alex says Dwayne Obi as a breakout player. That's great. He's absolutely balling out. He's third in the league in rushing, fourth in the league in rushing yards, and he's got 8 touchdowns. So that's a great pick right there. I'm actually going to go also for my second one with another guy who's going to be participating in this massive Ravens versus Raiders game this weekend. I can't get my mind off this game, as all of you should all feel the same way. Lucas Hasselvanter, the running back for the Raiders, who's really stepped in for Bonatti. Obviously, Bonatti, you possibly could have argued for him for a breakout year, but he's been injured the last few games, and Hasselvanter has had to step up. And since Bonatti has been out, he has been absolutely fantastic. Versus Helvetic, he had 25 rushes for 104 yards and a touchdown. Against the Surge, he combined for over 100 yards of offense with 2 touchdowns. It was super clutch playing against that Surge defense, one of the best in the league. And then against Milano, 24 rushes for 100 yards. So he's really taken that torch from Bonatti and been fantastic. And I think that's just that whole that Raiders T-roll running back room. Sandro Platzkummer left, and both Bonatti and Hasselvanter just stepped up, man. I mean, talk about loaded talent, like next man up. Both of these guys are having fantastic seasons, but Hasselvanter in particular, and I'm so excited to see both Hasselvanter and Justin Rodney this weekend, man, in the big matchup. That's who I got.
I like it. I like Tim Tonko as well. So shout out. He's a young kid coming through in that Raiders system. He played a little bit this year, but he's like 19 years old. He just won the European Championships in 3rd place. He's another player coming through that. But he's going to out Bonatti because Bonatti did the same thing last season when Sandro went out.
True.
And now Hasselvant is doing the same thing. But I love the pick. Great pick. Awesome player. Really solid running back.
There we go. We got in the chat, in the Instagram chat, we've got Young Nino, Yannick Meyer himself, the Austrian sensation. He's in the chat. What's up, Young Nino? Welcome to the show, man. All right. So those are our breakout players for this year. A lot of really good performances. It's always awesome to see somebody like a Milan Spiller who, I mean, I had never heard of him before this season, and now he's having such a phenomenal year. This brings us to our hot takes for, oh, you know what? Actually, before we go to the hot takes, we're gonna look back in time before we go forward into time. We're gonna pull up a couple tweets. Maybe you guys have seen on Twitter or X. I know Euroball Chow has, because he has been the one making these tweets. There's a trend going on Twitter. Max, you want to pull up one of these here so the guys can see? People, nobody will remember your salary, how busy you were, how many hours you worked. People will remember the 2022 Barcelona Dragons. And there we go right there. Just phenomenal squad. Man, that was an era with the Dragons, man.
It was such a good team. They got so many legends in that team already. Like, even from the coaching staff to the players, one of all-time teams of the year left for sure, no doubt.
We just gotta, I mean, Alex Malchow just producing content for this show week in and week out. Last week we took his Nkosi Perry video, which that hurt me a little bit, but was great content. And this week, we got the tweets as well. You guys all should be following Euroball Chow if you want the best on European football. Maxie, give us one more of these. Who else we got? Oh, you know what? That is crazy that the Barcelona or the Istanbul Rams beat that team. And here it is right here. The Istanbul Rams, after beating the Barcelona Dragons, hitting the locker room dance. RIP Rams, man.
Fun team. Some really good players in that team as well. I'm excited to see if we get any of them back in the following seasons.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got that. Alex, keep bringing those tweets out. I love seeing those every single time. It's great content. And it's trips down memory lane. So I see a couple comments in the chat here, particularly Jordan Newman calling Milan Spiller this offseason. That's from our man Mouch out there. We're going to do our hot takes for 2025. If you guys have any hot takes, put them on in here. Matt, presented by Ninja, the wood fire oven is going to give us our hot takes. Matt, what is your first hot take for 2025?
Here's my first one. Vienna Vikings are going to lose a regular season game in 2025. I'm calling it now. Panthers, Berlin, we thought they would have a little bit more of them this season, and we did. They had QB issues, they had injury issues. Both of the teams kind of struggled, and Berlin fell under 500. Panthers may fall 500 with this weekend. I think that division's getting better. Even on the bottom, you look at Prague, look at Throners, they're getting better every year. Vienna, they're coasting. Easy undefeated season again this year with a pretty easy schedule. I think we've also had some close games this year. I think they're going to get upset at some point in 2025, ending their dominance over the East. And I can see happening. If I was going to give a pick on who I think it would be, I'm going to go for Wroclaw. I think that would be my favorite as of now to upset the Rain.
Yo, you are bold, Matt. That is bold. Oof. In the chat, Ricardo Oliveira says against the Raiders. I know that he's a Raiders fan right there. So he's hoping. Do you think that it could be the Raiders, or are you sticking with the Panthers?
Could be Raiders, but they're not a divisional game, and I'm thinking more division. You know, we don't know if they're going to have an out of division game against the Raiders. They probably will, but I'm going to go with the Panthers because that's the team I thought of first, and I cannot back down on that opinion.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Marcus the man says Surge will be protecting their championship game crown and be in the playoffs again. You know I love that one, Marcus. You know I love that one right there. All right, my first hot take 2025. Cologne make the playoffs in 2025. Now, this is if they keep Isaiah Weed and they get back a lot of the squad, because they've won 4 out of their last 6 games here, and that's without their star running back Gerald Amelin, who really makes that offense even more dynamic. Isaiah Weed is settling in. He has so much talent, so much potential, needs to get a little bit more consistent. But I could see Cologne next year, if they were able to put a couple more pieces together and find that consistency, they can have a Madrid type run next year. They could end 7-4 and be in that playoff conversation. I do think that's possible. Saw them beat Frankfurt 2 times this year. Frankfurt before the season was a playoff contender in a lot of our minds, and still has a playoff contending roster, at least the talent wise. And so the fact that they beat them 2 times, there's a lot of promise there with Cologne. You just highlighted one of their bright spots on the defensive line. Cologne, watch out for them. They're going to be in the position that Madrid is this year. They'll be in that position next year. Is that ridiculous, Matt?
I don't think that's ridiculous at all. You know, I love Will Lytle. I love Bijan. I love Weed. I like Hill. You know, I like all these dudes. If they just put a little bit more. The difficult part is going to be, you beat Frankfurt, you beat Hamburg. How can you beat Paris? Because every time they played against Paris, they've lost quite a lot. How can you beat those guys? But I don't think that's ridiculous. I like that. I think that's a nice hot take. That's a good one.
It's a hot take. And yeah, M. Bison, you say that I'm with that take as long as legalizer returns. No Weed, no playoffs, 100%. This is 100% contingent on Isaiah Weed returning and them building off what they did this season. Get a little bit more consistent, Isaiah. All right, a little bit more consistent. Play those big stat games against some of these better teams. You guys will be in the playoffs. All right, that's my first one, Matt. What do you got on your second one?
All right, my second one. We've had Milan Spiller. We're going to have more passing records broken this year. Current yards, I think that's in jeopardy. We've got only 3,000 yards this season is the high. I think that's going to get broken for all time. I think we might have some competition at receiver with the first European receiver breaking a yards marker in this one. I think we're going to see more of that over the course of next season. It's largely been a Russian league, right? Glen's tearing it up. David's tearing it up. Bonatti and Hasselvanter are tearing it up. I think next season we might see a little bit of transition more towards the passing game. We're going to see some yards, touchdowns. Obviously, Jadrian was amazing. His record's going to be hard to beat. But I think an offense can step up for it. I think it's going to be a very interesting season. I'm predicting multiple European 1,000-yard receivers. I'm predicting the yards record gets broken. And I think we have a possible maybe percentage-based one as well, like a completion percentage. I think all of those are in jeopardy going into 2025.
Okay, I like it. And fourth down fiasco says Ben VP is going to throw for 4,500 yards.
It'll be tough in 12 games.
Hey, if you just got to stay healthy, be able to play all 12, then you'll be fine. That math adding up. All right, there we go. Nifty Dude says Sea Devils are going to have a winning season again. Requires big changes in the offseason for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Then we said, so some of you guys on Instagram, we said, come join us on YouTube or Twitch. And Goran Zech, the legend himself, says, here on Instagram is better. Gorgie, you stay on Instagram, man. You do whatever you want, okay? You do whatever you want. We're just happy to have you on the show. All right. My second hot take. Milan Spiller, the man you just talked about, will be signed by a top team next year. He is the Maceo Beard of 2024. Obviously, last year, Mace Beard led the league in interceptions, 7 or 8, won Defensive Player of the Year, and then got signed by the Paris Musketeers. I think one of these teams is going to go after Spiller. He'll be an E-import. He's worth the E-import spots. And I could see, a good handful of teams wanting this guy on the roster. And I think he's going to take that jump. What do you think about that, Matt?
I don't think I kind of like that. So I didn't even consider that, but now that you mention it, I'm trying to think of some teams that I think maybe could use him as an E. There's a lot of good talent, but he's going to have to, now you got me thinking about it, because I think Flores Calderon could be an option for that too. I think both of those young receivers could take that step up into E category. But where would you say, if you had to, I'm going to put you on the spot, where would you say team-wise he would fit into quite nicely at the moment?
Oof. Man, you know what? I might have to backtrack right here. We got in the chat right now, the man himself, Carlton Aiken, his teammate. Milan is not leaving. He says it from the man himself, his teammate himself. So Carlton might have just thrown some ice water on my hot take right there. Hey, man, I would love that. Carlton, you guys both return to the Mercenaries. You guys build off what you guys started this year, moving in that direction. I would love to see that. But Malchow says, Spiller, get the bag. If he gets a nice contract offer, we'll see. But I would absolutely respect it and love it if he stayed and you guys built off that, Carlton. That would be awesome. So there we go. All right. That's and Matt, that's how I evade you putting me on the spot with the question.
There you go. Nice,
that's smart right there. I'm a professional.
It's professional. Stuff. I like it.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So those are our hot takes for 2025. That's a fun exercise. That's a really fun exercise right there. So, Matt, let's take a look at this weekend, man.
Okay.
Maxie, toss them up. Beautiful graphic that we love, of course, every week. Week 14. That's insane. The final week of the regular season flew by.
It really has.
Yeah.
So fast.
All right. First game. Matt, what are your thoughts? Cologne Centurions versus the Enthroners of Fehervar. Talk to me.
Cologne are really, really hot. They're really hot. Enthroners are cooling down, but Cologne got big wins. They look fantastic. They've really kind of hit form in sometimes the best, sometimes the worst range, because at the end of the start of the season, they weren't looking too good. They made some moves, made some adjustments, got Hill in. And got Bijan in as well. They've been so good in the second half of the year. I think they should win this one quite convincingly. Enthroners, last couple, I think that Prague loss really kind of affected them because they've not looked the same since. I'm going to go for Cologne. I think they win this one. I think we see a lot of that short dink and dunk kind of play and just building up for next season. Try and get some experimental stuff in and see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it, man. The Enthroners, they were looking solid there for a while. And there was a few weeks ago where a lot of people were thinking, or you and I included, were thinking the Enthroners might upset the Panthers. We look silly now, but they were playing well and they had a little bit of momentum. But I think it's just the opposite now in the Centurions. I do believe their momentum. And also I think that they're feeling a little bit of that momentum and kind of the positivity of sort of the second half of the season that they had. Like I said, they've won 4 to the last 6, and they have a chance right now to go 6-6 and be 500 in probably the most difficult conference in this league. Centurions, they're gonna take it home, man, and they're gonna finish 500. Good for them too.
Yeah, very good for them. Good year for them, I think.
Now we've got the first international game, the Bravos and the Sea Devils meeting up down in Croatia. The Bravos have a lot to play for this week. look at that. The split is almost 50-50, Matt. 56-44. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm surprised. I think is the nice word. Unfathomably surprised. I really can't see it being this close. I think Madrid are going to be going for blood because they need these point differential in terms of the playoff seedings. I think they're going to just try and put as much on as they can on a Hamburg team that's on a massive losing stretch. Fulford's not been great. Run game's not been going anywhere. Defense has been solid, but hasn't been helped by the fact their offense has been poor. I think Madrid are going to take this one, and I think they're going to try and score as many and as early as possible. I think this is going to be a big one.
Yeah, man. I mean, we talked about it. If the Ravens beat the Raiders, then points really come into play in a realistic fashion here for the Bravos. And obviously, this is a team that's playing for it all. And I think they're upset and want to kind of redeem themselves from their last two losses, kicking themselves from that Frankfurt one that I feel like they overlooked. And then obviously kind of the heartbreaker last week with Paris. I think that they're going to unleash it all on the Sea Devils down there in that Croatia game. That'll be cool, man. I'm excited to see what it looks like down there. That's fun. That's a fun trip for the players to be able to do that. So I'm with the Bravos as well. Now, Serge, Helvetic, your man, Milan Spiller. We just talked about it. And Matt, if you want to tell the people what is at stake here for Milan Spiller?
I think he's going to get 1,000 yards. I think they're going to throw him the ball as many times as they can. Like Alex's tweet said, people don't matter how much money you make. People don't care how busy you were. People will remember the first European to go 1,000 yards, and it's going to be Milan Spiller in this game. That being said, Serge are going to win. The big thing is, though, do you rest the starters or do you come out and try and keep them warm? Because we've not really seen Serge play a full game that often this year.
Right.
And they got into the playoffs. They got a bye week if they assumedly would be above with point differential and go into the second seed. Do you play starters? Do you not play starters? Do you risk injuries? I'm interested in what you think on this one because I'm going back and forth with it in my head.
Yeah, it kind of depends. There's a few different things at play here. Obviously, the Surge need to win this game to claim the number 2 seed and get that first week bye in the playoffs. Let's assume that they are able to do that. Another thing at play is the Surge are right there at the top of the league for least amount of points allowed. When you look at that defense, it's one of the best defenses in the league. Co-defensive coordinated by Johnny Brenner and Cody Pastorino. It's awesome situation they've got there. And they're 2 points ahead of the Rhine Fire. And so when you're asking, are you going to play starters the whole time here? What's your mentality going to this game? I don't know. I think that they would like to keep that title as the least scored upon team in the league. So I could see guys getting to play for a good amount of time. And also, if it ends up they win, they are going to have that bye anyway. And we talked about it. I mean, I know it wouldn't be a bye, but if you're not letting guys, if truly sitting guys, and then it would end up being 2 weeks in a row where they're not really playing, I don't think it's worth it. But that's a long way of saying the Surge.
Yeah, I like it.
Fourth Down Fiasco says, is Jamal that 4%? Jamal has opened up a bunch of internet browsers and voted every time for the Mercenaries. And we love that. We've got to hold on. We've got breaking news from the Mercenaries, actually. Hold on. Stand by just a second here. As in the chat, Malchow says, he's gone to what's going on? Is he retiring?
Oh no. Jeez.
He's retiring. Man, he's had a crazy, crazy season. Second in the league in tackles behind just AJ Wentland. And I think he's 33 years old.
Yeah.
Which is pretty damn impressive.
Damn. Okay, so that's kind of made me sad. I like John Falk.
Yeah, damn, man. But hey, what a season for him, at least individually, to go out on. Congrats, John Falk. Enjoy your last game against the Surge, man. And get a few more tackles. Finish off with another double-digit tackle game. That'll feel good. Damn. So we got Jonathan Falk going into retirement there. We're breaking news on this show, Matt. We get breaking news on the LF Live. There we go. All right, heading south couple sunny teams, Dragons of Barcelona and the Seamen of Milan. Two teams that haven't had the best seasons. Matt, what do you got on this one?
I mean, I think a few weeks back, I can maybe see the Dragons. Like I think I said my exact wording was Milan have won their last game at E11. I really thought the Dragons might have been able to put something together in the last few weeks. I hope something would happen. I'm going to have to recall my hot take. I do think Milan are going to win this game. They should be winning it quite comfortably. But it's two pretty poor offenses. Well, I mean, Dragons are a poor team. Obviously, they have everything going on, but it's good that they finished the season. Milan, they need really to kind of show everyone, look, we lost a few games late in the season, but our changes have worked. And if they're going to do it, they have to do it in this last game because every single change they've made has been a bit questionable. And they've had a pretty poor year, maybe worse than last year, you could argue. And they're not looking too great. So it's a win, but it's at what cost kind of win.
Yeah, at what cost? I mean, that's a great way of pointing out. They've made their changes, and has it been good? I don't think so. Not great, but yeah, this Mal Chow in the chat says Jock Crawford gonna go crazy this game. I actually think that might be true. I wonder. We'll get to your fantasy picks in a little bit, Matt, but I'm wondering if that might be one of them. You always just say pick who's playing against Barcelona.
Yeah,
I got to go with you. Milan are going to defeat Barcelona. I don't think it's going to be pretty for either team, but Milan's going to pick up one more win. It's a team that had a little bit, they had flashes of potential here and there, and they could have probably had 2 or 3 more wins this season. Well, they're probably going to get one this weekend at least. Yeah. Now, back to the West, a rematch, Paris Musketeers versus the Galaxy of Frankfurt. And unfortunately, Galaxy will be playing without Matthew McKay. Obviously, he got injured last game. It's terrible. We wish him the best. Gute Besserung, as we say here in Germany. Matt, thoughts on this one?
More playoff implications, I think, is the big one for this game. Is Paris need to win to get that seed up, and I'm sure they would like to do that. Like you said, though, McKay's out. That's a big one. I do think Paris are going to win. Again, I think should be quite comfortable. If they had McKay in, I think it'd be a different story. Mac did do a good job when he was in. I think that we're going to see Markel get a ton of targets in this one because he's only 30 yards off the crown this season. So that could be something to follow in this game. But I do think the Paris are going to win. Should be rather comfortable. Again, playoffs implications are huge. They want that seed up, so they're going to have to be going for blood on this one.
Yeah, I mean, Paris, if they win, then they're going to be the number 4 seed, I believe, and then they will host a home playoff game, which is, I mean, the fact that you're making the playoffs as a second-year franchise, that's big, but then to be able to host a home playoff game, that's a big deal for teams. That's a really big deal to not have to go on the road in that first week, and so the Musketeers are playing for that. I think that this game would be closer if Matthew McKay was not injured. I think the last time they played was a 3-point ball game. Galaxy have showed that they can play well on certain weeks, obviously the way that they played against Madrid, and Madrid and Musketeers play each other close. But I think without Matthew McKay, it's going to look a little differently, and we got to go with the Musketeers of Paris, and that'll have them finishing at 10-2, won't it?
Yes, it will, which is a great season for them. They've been a great team. Good
for them. All right, back to the East. The Panthers and the Prague Lions. Big split on this one, 5 to 95%. Matt, where do you land?
I mean, I'm going to agree with the majority and go the Panthers here. Of course, I predicted them to win last week. I'm just saying the people that said about no one believed. I believed in you. I think Noah's going to have a really big game in this game. He's actually been surprisingly really efficient at quarterback. He's like 70 plus for completion percentage. He's been putting off these magical plays. He's really brought back like week 1 through 3 or 1 through 2. They had a really fun dynamic offense that died for a while, and now it's back. So I don't really know what happened there, but a super fun team to watch, and I think they're going to be busting out all the stocks, especially in the red zone. Like their red zone creativity is absolutely outstanding because they have so many players that can have like jet sweeps. They got Zozo's obviously franchise back, and I think could be on the move this year. Someone to a team potentially. They've got a ton of options. Prague, I think, going to struggle. They've had poor offensive line. Panthers have some really good defensive linemen, and AJ Wentland is going to be going for Defensive Player of the Year, trying to get some last complimentary stats for that one. So I'm going to go for the Panthers. Again, should be rather comfortable.
Yeah, I love what you said there. They're so creative on offense, man. Just getting different guys the ball in all sorts of different ways, double passes, all sorts of different things. Linebackers coming out of the backfield. It's fun to watch. The Panthers offense without a traditional pocket quarterback has been very, very interesting and fun to watch. Yeah, I think they're going to run it up on the Prague Lions, and they're going to have fun. I think this is a team that we've seen glimpses of them having fun and kind of really playing with that energy and that emotion. I think they're going to do that here for their last game of the year, and they're going to go out with a little bit of bang. Program that has so much potential, and I hope to see them reaching that potential next year. All right, the big one, the granddaddy of them all. I stole the Rose Bowl's slogan here for this one. It is the Central Conference Showdown, Raiders T-Roll versus the Munich Ravens. Talk to me, Matt. Talk to me.
Oh, I need a minute. First and foremost, this is amazing rivalry building, organic rivalry building for the future of the league, which I want to just touch on for the people that say the league hasn't got any competition. This is unbelievably good for the league. In terms of the game, here's how I see it going. This is my full game projection. I think the Raiders are going to start run heavy. I think the Ravens are going to go extremely heavy to Markel Castle, to Malik Stanley, rather. I think we're going to see a ton of that back and forth, high scoring. And then Cozy is going to pull off another clutch drive. I'm going to go for the Raiders. I think it's going to be another very similar scoreline to the Surge of like a 35-31, a 42-37, something like that. I think it's going to be very high scoring, very dynamic. I'm going against the grain. I go for the Tyrrell team, and they're going to make the playoffs as well. It's going to be a very exciting. Don't take your out of this game, of course. You're going to be commentating it, so I'm excited to hear you on that one.
Thanks, man. I'm excited too. I'm juiced up. This is going to be a great one. Yeah, it's 56% of people choosing the Ravens right now, 44 with the Raiders. Let's see what people are saying. Alex Malchow says Raiders in the chat. Karen Haig says, let's go Ravens. Nifty Dude says the playoffs begin already this Sunday at 4:25 p.m. That's good. I like that. This is the playoff game. And then Tyrolus, I can't really read the name, says Perry and Sweeting for the win. Oof, man. I mean, Matt, I like what you said a lot there. I think this is going to be back and forth, and I'm hoping that it's going to be a little bit of a shootout, like with scores in the 30s. I would love that. That would be awesome. Be great for the league. Fourth down fiasco. They say they can't repeat that drive from the last time. That was Angels in the outfield. So, yeah, man, I've been struggling. I've been thinking about this back and forth all week. I mean, I've been preparing for this game, watching a lot of tape on both these teams, researching, getting ready, and I don't know. Maxie, is it okay if I don't pick one? Is it okay if I abstain? Am I allowed to abstain?
Midway hard your
Maxie,
sleeve, man.
he says no. He says no. Our director says no. Oh man, I'm being coerced. This is coercion. All right, let's see. Kind of M. Bison says kind of torn here. Back and forth game. Very, very close. For sure could go either way. I think in the end, I'm with you, Matt. T-Roll Raiders. And you know why?
Ooh.
They got Philip Hahn, who's clutch as hell. And what I saw live with my own eyes, what N'Kosi Perry and Philip Hahn did against the Surge in a very hostile, loud environment on 4th and 15, game-winning play right there, that was very impressive. That's burned into my brain. And I feel like the Raiders got a little bit of that clutch gene. Like I said, could go either way, but I'm being forced to choose. I'm going to go Raiders in a 1 to 3 point ball game. So that is what we got there, Maxie. We got that. All right. And then what else do you guys say in the oh, never mind. We lost you. We actually have breaking news. Once again, we have a special guest here coming in one moment, guys, here in the chat. So give us a second here. We'll just hang out with you guys here in the chat. The fourth down fiasco guy says, in Joe Thomas, we believe. Go Ravens. Well, that is pretty good that they've got that. Matt, man, I'm gassed up for that game.
This is going to be like history. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of games you wait for all year. And it was at the end of the schedule. It's prime time. It's the only game on at that time. So everyone's going to be watching. It's going to be absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, Marcus says, Nick, stop being a ballerina. I'm dancing around it. I'm trying to sit on the fence. I feel some sort of obligation, a duty as the broadcaster to remain neutral and impartial. I guess, on this show, I can show a little partiality. Ricardo Oliveira is a little upset at the fourth down fiasco guys for their Joe Thomas joke. He said Joe Thomas is not playing.
I mean, if he does, though, they got Garrett Brandt out there. They got an amazing offensive line. Like, they're an incredible team.
Hey.
Like, there's so many ways it could go. Whether they use Rodney or Tomiwa, or they use Stanley on the outside. They got some great complementary receivers like Marvin, Chad, super efficient. This could be great.
There we go, and we have got joining us special guest. Oh, sorry, got our hopes up there for a second. One moment. We're going to do an impromptu ELF live interview here with one of the best players in this league, having a historical season. This man is unstoppable. It's unbelievable to watch what he does on the field every week. And he's got a bye this week, so he's chilling. We've got the man himself, Glen Toonga. What is up, Glen Toonga?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? What's up, Matt? What's up, Nick?
What's up, man? Where are you at right now?
In Düsseldorf in the city. I just went to go and get some food.
Okay, nice.
I'm here for the bye week. Nothing special.
There we go. Glen, all right, before we talk to you about kind of your season and everything, what are your thoughts here on this Raiders-Ravens game?
I put my money on the Ravens. Raiders.
Raiders? Okay.
I remember talking to Tony, and I was like, Tony, I think the Raiders will beat the Surge, man. Like, I think they can do it, and they did it. So, I think they can beat the Ravens. I think, like, they've had, like, tough games. They've been challenged. And so I feel like when it comes down to it, they'll be able to pull through.
Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, the Raiders are clutch as hell. We saw that.
Yeah.
We saw that with the Surge, and
Right.
it's gonna be an awesome one, man. Hey, how you spending the bye week? What are you doing?
Working out.
There we go.
Yeah, we have no practice this week, so I'm using that time wisely, and I've decided to work out for as long as I want, do whatever I want. So I am working out a lot this week. So
There
yeah.
we go. Well, Glenn, I mean that's probably why you have 30 touchdowns this year. Dude, talk to us a little bit about this season. Are you just in the damn zone every single game, just feeling unstoppable? What has this season been like for you?
I didn't expect it to go how it went or how it's gone so far. I thought, okay, we're gonna come back, we're gonna see how things go. We have like a brand new receiving core, but we have the same OC, same lineman. And then it's got to a point where we're running the ball, and I was like, oh damn, okay, this is where we're heading. And then we'll be on the 3-yard line, the 1-yard line, and guess what we're doing? We're gonna run the ball. And I was like, okay, I like this. Like this is good. But yeah, it's just been really good. I've just been thankful for the way it's turned out. So yeah, I can't complain at all, really.
Yeah, man. It's been fun to watch you, man. And I don't know if you can see the chat right now. People are chanting MVP in the chat. I guess we would call it typing in all caps, but it comes out like a chant. Moving forward a little bit, Glenn. So obviously right now you guys are the number 2 seed, but you guys are done playing week 14. You got the bye. The Surge, if they win, then will take that number 2 seed, and you guys will have to play in the first round. And the way things shake out right now, I believe, and Maxie, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys will play the Ravens most likely. Will play the Ravens. What are your thoughts on the Munich Ravens? Yeah, Maxie says most likely. What are your thoughts on this squad?
They're a really good team. I feel like their defense is really good. It'll be good to go up against Coach K. I feel like I've never really had the privilege of doing that. Obviously played for him at Hamburg. He's obviously brought like a bunch of their guys over to him with the Ravens. So it'll be good to actually go up against those guys. We did it last year, but I feel like it wasn't really the same. They're a really good team. But I feel like it'll be a challenge for them to come down to Ryan Fire and play in front of all our fans. I feel like that's the hardest thing to do, obviously playing against our defense, but to come down here, you're really playing against all of our fans. So I feel like that's always quite interesting to see how teams cope with that. Their defense is good. Their offense is good. They obviously have Tommy, who's good to see him back. Yeah, it'll be good to play against a new team this year. I was dreading playing against Madrid or Paris for the third time. That's never any fun playing against a team for the third time. I was really looking forward to playing against the Raiders. That would have been good. But we'll take the Ravens. We'll take Munich.
Yeah, man, that's gonna make sense. That's a great point. Like, because you guys obviously played Madrid, you played Paris multiple times already this season. So to get a fresh opponent, that's super exciting. Not only for you guys, the players, but also for us, the fans, just to see different matchups right there. Matt, feel free to jump in if you got
I was waiting for an opportunity. I was going to say,
you go ahead.
Well, like obviously you got Munich that are expected. But is there any teams that you've highlighted on? I want to play this team. I want to show that we're better than this team. You obviously 1 and 2 seed. You got Vienna. You got Stuttgart. Is there either of those teams in your mind like I really want to get to the final, get to the semi-final, play one of those teams to show that we're better than that team?
Vienna is a team that I really want to play. I feel like we haven't really had a chance to ever go up against them. We obviously played Surge last year, and Surge is a new team this year, and I feel like there will be a challenge. But I haven't played against Vienna since 2022, so I really want to play those guys and just show that we're actually better than everyone. Yeah, that would be fun.
Glenn, without getting too controversial here, and feel free to abstain. Some people, their criticism of Vienna is obviously they went undefeated during the regular season, but that their schedule was not very difficult out there in the East. You guys are coming out of the Western Conference, what many people would say is the toughest conference. Do you think there's any merit to that with the Vienna Vikings coming out of a weaker conference?
I mean, I think there's pros and cons. I think the pros is that like when you play in the West, you're used to these tough battles. So you're used to having to perform under pressure. The cons that obviously is that like you get banged up. It's a physical conference. And I guess playing in the conference that Vienna's in, it's the opposite. Like yeah, you have this easier regular season, but how often do you get challenged, and is that going to come back to bite you in the ass when you get to the playoffs? So I feel like there's pros and cons to both, and at the end of the day, you just got to deal with the hand that you're dealt with, and just win regardless of whether it's a harder game or easier game. It's just about who's able to win. So yeah.
There we go, man. Matt, you got some more questions for Glenn?
Yeah, I got one more. Obviously, you've been through like what, a calendar year. You've scored every single game you played in over the last calendar year. Is there any game that you like came in, you scored in, you were the most happy with? Like, what touchdown has meant the most to you in the last like year of football? Because it's been so long since we've seen Glenn not be in the end zone.
Other than the championship game, no, none. Like everything has just been.
All 30 you scored?
Actually, you know what? There was a I think it was against Paris. There was it's like a screen. We call it Pacers, like a screen to the H. It's my only receiving touchdown this year. That is probably like the number one. I'm like, okay, I will take this one. This is like my number one touchdown. That or maybe against Hamburg in a big stadium, just because of like the environment, and it was good to be back in Hamburg. But really, that's it. Really, just yeah, just.
It's mad how the one receiving has trumped the 30 rushing ones you've had. It's crazy.
I was actually talking to who was I talking to? I was telling someone that like 30 isn't that much. Like surely it's not that hard to score a bit more than 2 every game. What? But then I saw Alex's tweet. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
not that many people have done it. Maybe it is that hard.
Yeah, what Alex's tweet was like, that's happened like 3 times or something in the history of the NFL even. And they got more games.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, fair. But then I was like, more than 2 every game? Is it that hard? Oh, no.
Yeah, dude. You're like 4th in the league for touchdowns, including like the people that pass for them. And passing for touchdowns is easy, rushing for them. You got more like touchdowns than Jacob, Duncan. You got all more lead guys on the ground.
And we did the numbers. I think you're 11th in the league of teams for touchdowns.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a crazy stat. I got one more question for you, Glenn, before we let you go and enjoy your bye week.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Fire, obviously coming off the championship game 2023, you guys were unstoppable. And then early this year, it seemed like you guys had a little bit of adversity, at least in the passing game. I mean, this is really when you started taking off on the ground and everything.
Mhm.
But now it feels like you guys are clicking and kind of firing on all cylinders more. I mean, the run game is phenomenal. The pass game is now kind of seeming back to 2023 form. Can
Mhm.
you kind of talk about that? Like kind of what happened, what was going on then? And then how did you guys get back on the firing on all cylinders like you are now?
I think two things. I think one, it's hard to change or feel the need to get better when you're always winning. And I feel like last year we won not easily, but when you look at the amount of points that we scored, we always racked up points. And so I feel like going into this year, obviously guys want to get better and the team wants to get better, but there never was a real need to do so because we're always winning so easily. And so I feel like that game against Madrid just kind of, I guess, sparks or made us realize, or was a catalyst that forced us to realize, okay, guys, we actually need to get better. We need to figure out what exactly we need to get better at. And I think that the second thing was that, like, even though I think we found our identity now where we're able to run and pass, I think at the start of the year, we thought we would just do exactly what we did last year. And I feel like that kind of like bit us in the ass. But obviously now we found a way to be able to do both. But I feel like at the start of the year, we were really trying to figure out who we were as a team. Even though we kept a big core of our team, we obviously had like a new receiving core. We had like guys like Joachim retire. So I feel like we had to. Our first game, we were figuring out who we were, and I feel like over these last few weeks, we've found a way to do that. Our defense has obviously, like, I feel like, gotten way better too, and I feel like we've kind of peaked up at the right time rather than, finding our troubles now. We've peaked at the right time. So yeah.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, if you're gonna have any sort of struggles, do it in the beginning of the season, and then you guys
Right.
just built on all that, and now heading into playoff time, you guys are just you're full steam ahead right now.
Mhm.
Matt, you got anything else for Glenn before we let him go?
One more. I got
Yeah.
one more. I was talking to like Jay during the offseason about what quarterbacks do you watch in the league, and he was like, I don't really need to because I'm the MVP, right? you're my MVP favorite, but you're looking at running backs that are below you in the rankings and in yards and touchdowns. Who of those stand out to you as like a potential could be the next man up in terms of taking that title or being around your title next season?
Obviously, one, I have to say Dwayne Obi.
Yeah.
I feel like his first in the year has been good, and obviously he's a fellow Brit. So my hopes are that we can keep it in that circle. But over the last few weeks, one guy who I've seen like really come alive, I don't want to butcher his surname, is Chris, the Paris running back, number 45.
Yeah.
And like, I remember seeing him like, who the heck is 45? Like, what kind of running back wears 45? But then like seeing him ball, like he's a really good athlete. He's got good feet. He makes good reads. And I'm like, okay, if he had started earlier, I feel like Paris's run game would have like been way better than where it is now, and we would have seen a lot more plays from him. I love the fact that he likes to hurdle randomly. He's got some swag to him. So I'd say like if he can keep it stay at Paris and keep getting better, I'd say he's got like a big future in the league.
I like that pick. That's a good pick.
Yeah, there we go. That's a great one right there. He's balling out. 45 is an ugly number though for a running back.
That was crazy. I was like,
get that out, bro.
Is this one of their linebackers who they just found that he can play running back? Like, who is this guy? And I was like, okay, no, he can actually ball out. He's actually good. He just needs to get a new number. That's all.
Yeah, there you go. He's pulling it off. There it is. All right, Glenn, man, thank you so much for joining us on the
Appreciate you
show,
guys.
bro. It's awesome
you.
talking with you, man.
Thank
Great.
you. This was fun.
Yeah.
See you later.
And enjoy the rest of your bye week. Get some good
Yes, sir.
relaxation. Have a good lift. And
Yes,
we're
sir.
excited to watch you score some more touchdowns in the playoffs, man.
Thank you, guys. I'll be tuning in as usual.
Hell
It's
yeah,
a weird
man.
thing here on the Thursday,
Good, man.
but this
There
is
you
good.
go. All right, Glenn, we'll see you later, man. Thanks,
I'll
bro.
see you guys. You guys have a good evening.
You too,
Bye.
man.
Glenn's just such a good guy, man. That's why I say he's like obviously one of the best players on the field in this league, but also he's a star and he's got a great personality. He's such a nice guy. He's a humble guy, and I think I said this earlier in the year. If there was a Madden or a college football college football sports video game of the ELF, Glenn would be on the cover.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I met him in the off season. Like we had a camp in the off season with JJ and with Glenn, a couple other guys. Like he's awesome. He's so good with like everyone he meets. I love Glenn. He's probably my favorite player in the league that I've met. He's awesome.
Yeah. Great ball player, great guy, great for the league. Hey, Matt, that takes us right up to 1959. Oh, we still have your fantasy picks. We still have your fantasy picks.
We can. I'll be very quick. I'll do it like 3 words or less on each one.
All right, here we go. Bang out Matt's fantasy picks to finish up the show.
Super quick. If you want volume, go for Spiller, go for Stanley, go for Castle. Any of those are going to get a ton of catches, guaranteed. Willie P, also in that category, going to have a ton of targets. They're going to be scoring a ton of points. So Obi could be in that, but injuries, you might want to go for Molina. But I think Willie P's in for a big one. David, he's the heart and motor of that team in Poland. He's going to be a big part of it. Avoid surge. I think they're going to rest some of their players. Guy, Meyer, Kantar, all these guys, Riley even. They're going to have a little bit of a second half. I think they're going to probably take some of those guys off. So avoid surge players. Go for the teams that need those points. Maybe even take a Raider or a Munich player if you're feeling a bit risky.
Ooh, risky. Hey, we're hoping that some players go off in that Raiders-Ravens games. Okay, guys, there you have it. Matt's fantasy advice, fantasy picks. Lock on your team by midnight tomorrow, Friday, to be ready for the last week of the regular season. It's your last chance in the regular season. And there it is, Matt. We're right at 8 o'clock on the dot because we are consummate professionals. And even when we get thrown an impromptu interview, we finish right at 8 o'clock. That's pretty cool.
I mean, it's 7 o'clock for me, but yeah, it's all good.
Time zones. Perfect. All right, guys, everyone in the chat, thanks so much for joining us. This was a fun one. Got the big games this weekend. Everyone, make sure Game Pass. There is the playoff special €20 deal. Great deal. 4:25 on Sunday, German time, Central European time, Raiders versus Ravens. I'm on the call. I expect you to be tuning in there and watching that ball game. All right, Matt, we will see you Monday to talk about what happens this weekend, man. See you later.
See you guys later. Ta-ra.
Bye, everybody.